He has so many opportunities and a whole life ahead of him. But all of that was taken away in just one short night. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about a hazing incident that backfired. Today you will hear about one that led to the means of vengeance, the motive of anger, and ultimately the murder of a fellow student. Let us back up to the night of Duke Kenilworth's death. It's 10 p.m., and a group of students are gathered in Arcane Park. Around them is a gigantic stage, 5 thrones, a mud pit, and just over the trees and the bushes, an alcohol station. One student is singled out, the defendant, and Duke Kenilworth stands on the stage with a feather pillow and a bucket of glue in his hand. He pours the glue all over the defendant, and she is tarred and feathered. And in the defendant's eyes is murderous rage. Just 1 hour and 23 minutes later, Duke Kenilworth's body is seizing in the ground. He chokes on his own vomit. All the other pledges watch with horror as he dies right in front of them. That is all except one, the defendant. We, the state, I'm sorry, excuse me. But they didn't know what else that beer mug that Duke drank on that night had. They didn't know who or what really killed Duke Kenilworth. But, ladies and gentlemen, today, we now know. We now know that someone on the night of October 26th intentionally poured arsenic trioxide into Duke Kenilworth's mug. And the defendant is sitting in that chair because we, the people of the state, are saying that she is the one who poured it. In doing so, we have accepted the burden of proof, and we will prove to you today beyond a reasonable doubt that she premeditated and deliberated. In order to understand the defendant's motives, means, and opportunity, we have to back up to the first day of school for the defendant. And today we will hear from the person closest to the victim's heart, Ms. Austin Taylor, his girlfriend. She'll tell you the threats the defendant made to the victim and identify the reasons to kill. She'll tell you that the defendant was the only person in the school who had access to the chemical that took Duke Kenilworth's life. And finally, we will hear today from Dr. D. Moore and hear about the state of Duke Kenilworth when he died. You learned that Duke consumed 400 milligrams arsenic trioxide when he died. 400 milligrams, ladies and gentlemen. That's double the usual fatal dose. Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant had the motive of anger, the means of vengeance, and ultimately caused the murder of a fellow student. And that is why, at the end of today's trial, my co-counsel Andrew Leung will stand before you and ask of you to find the defendant guilty of murder. Thank you.
That's ready for the opening statement.
Yes, Your Honor. Today's case is about a faulty investigation, a false accusation, a 17-year-old girl whose life is at stake. On the night of October 26, 2009, the running of the Gauntlet festivities began. Pledges were put through humiliating experiences while upperclassmen drank and ate. Terry Hayes was tarred and feathered, hit with wooden paddles, and finally given the Flunky Award. But before she had the chance to serve Duke Kenilworth any beer that night, the president of Carpe Diem had begun complaining of a headache, abdominal pains, and nausea. Soon, he had vomited and finally collapsed, unconscious, to the ground. An emergency call was made. After police arrived at Arcane Park, where the festivities were held, a chaotic scene emerged. Duke Kenilworth was declared dead. Policemen processed the teens present for underage drinking and arranged for their parents to take them home. Detective Friday took a statement from a very drunk Austin Taylor. And an investigation had begun. But slowly, after that night, things returned to normal. Then, on June 30th, 2010, Friday received an anonymous call indicating that the cause of Duke's death was not just an alcohol overdose, as his investigation and coroner Wright's autopsy had concluded. Friday reopened the case, testing the beer mugs that had been in evidence for over 8 months, gathering new evidence, questioning Hayes, finally asking Coroner Moore to exhume Duke Kenilworth's body. And then, on March 31st, 2011, Terry Hayes was arrested. And that is why we are here today, ladies and gentlemen, to decide if we will punish a young, innocent girl with such a bright future ahead of her with the capital murder of Duke Kenilworth. Today you will hear from Sandy Lowe, who will tell you how trustworthy Terry is, how mature, humble, and brilliant she is. You will also hear from Terry herself, who will tell you about the organizing and reorganizing that she did of the lab cabinets. And also that she never had the chance to serve Duke Kenilworth any beer that night. And the evidence backs that up. At the end of today's trial, my co-counsel, Lucy Lee, will stand before you. She will ask you to come to the only just verdict in this case, that of not guilty. Thank you.